Which second-year player could be a top 5 dynasty running back this time next year? Find out this and more on today's Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode of Locked On Dynasty is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Welcome to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, is Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, how's it going today?
It's going well. How about you? We're all over this YouTube thing now. We're veterans. One episode in, we got it down pat.
Absolutely. Experts now at YouTube. Oh, yeah. Not really. We're learning as we go. If you missed yesterday's episode, you can now watch our episodes on YouTube. I know you've been watching Kate and Marcus. They've been sharing their episodes over on YouTube for almost a year now. We're catching up to them. So go follow the Locked On Dynasty Football on YouTube. Give us a follow there. Give us a subscribe. Check it out if that works better for your schedule. Or keep listening to us in podcast form. You've got options now, right? Do both.
Spread the word.
Matt, we are talking running backs today. We hit those quarterbacks yesterday. We had some bold predictions. We talked future ADP, a quick look at what the top 5 quarterbacks could look like. Again, if you missed that one, go back and check that out. Matt and I had some very differing opinions on the Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson. So give that one a listen if you missed it. But we are moving on. We're talking running backs today. Matt, let's jump right into it because we've got some bold predictions for the running back position, and I want to hear your first one right now.
I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds finishes the season as a top 15 back. 12 was a little lofty for me, but I was going to say in that neighborhood. I think people look at their backfield and think, boy, it's crowded. I don't know who to pick. I think just money talks. That was their first priority. They went out and got him. Clearly, he's the best receiver of the group. We know that system produces wonderful fantasy points. You know, the Niners system. I think the offensive line will start to really get to at least mediocre from being really poor. And I think he's the guy to own and could be, I don't want to say a fantasy winner, but some people are getting him as like a flex or an RB3. Yeah. You know, you can get him a lot cheaper than I'm implying right now.
Yeah, definitely still undervalued. Looking at current DLF ADP, I've got to scroll way down the list before I find Chase Edmonds at RB 39. He's behind Isaiah Spiller. He's behind Devin Singletary, behind James Robinson. I think he's certainly undervalued. And Matt, you have said on this show for months, really since the Dolphins made that coaching hire, that whoever they end up with as their running back, this was, of course, before free agency, before the NFL draft, whoever is the Dolphins running back, I want that guy on my fantasy team. They added a few guys, right? They added Chase Edmonds. That was their first big move. They later signed Raheem Mostert. They even added Sony Michel, who was cut earlier this week. So he's kind of out of the way. This feels like Edmonds and Mostert, and as much as I like Raheem Mostert, we kind of know his injury history.
Right.
So I like your call of Chase Edmonds. I don't have to disagree strongly with that one like I did yesterday. I'm gonna give you one that might, I don't know if you'll agree, but it might sting a little. Najee Harris.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Najee Harris will not be a top 12 fantasy scorer this season. Of course, he was last year as a rookie, racking up yards, and currently is valued as the running back 2 in Dynasty ADP from DLF. I think he's one of the most overvalued players in Dynasty. I can't believe he's a first rounder. That offensive line, I don't have to tell you, Matt, some concerns to say the least. Now, just as the season is about to start, we're hearing this injury talk. I actually meant to ask you about that yesterday. The Najee Harris injury talk. They even mentioned the was it the Liz Frank as
yeah.
We know that's a scary injury. It's not the full Liz Frank injury, but is it in that neighborhood? Is that
it was
fair?
a Liz Frank sprain, which I think is like a lesser version. It's like a 4 to 5 week injury, and he did very little at camp. We just thought we were conserving it. They were just being conservative with him. And there was reports he got his foot stepped on. That's not what it was. It was this Liz Frank strain. And then he played in the last preseason game, and he even admitted in the post game that I didn't quite feel the same, but after I got going a little bit, it was better and better. So he's on like week 4 or 5 of his recovery from that. So he's pretty much over it, but he's not quite 100% yet.
Yeah, so that injury, obviously, not rooting for Najee Harris to miss time or any other player, but that injury is just another reason to be concerned about Najee Harris's dynasty value, as well as his short-term production. We'll see if he can get on the field and get a quick turnaround from that injury. But this is a crowded landscape of running backs. I think many running backs that have kind of had a down year or two recently are primed for big years this season. Saquon Barkley comes to mind. Yeah. Alvin Kamara is going to avoid suspension. It looks like he's ready to go. I'm a little worried about Najee Harris. I would certainly not draft him in the first round. And as I said, I don't think he finishes as a top 12 PPR fantasy back this season.
I understand where you're coming from. I won't fight you too hard on it. I don't know if he'll catch as many passes. I mean, he has so many quick little dump offs from Ben. I think he'll run more of a route tree, but that doesn't mean that he'll catch as many balls. And the other problem with him is he's never going to break you the long one. Right. I mean, if someone has a couple long runs for touchdowns throughout the year, that adds up quick in the fantasy world. He's really got to work for everything he gets.
Yeah, absolutely. So down on Najee Harris, thumbs up on Chase Edmonds, though. And when we come back from this break, we'll tell you about a couple other players we're interested in, and we've got some bold predictions for you.
Yeah, folks, just like a football team, though, as you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire in all cylinders. And LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. I mean, create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. 810 million. And then add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It makes it so much easier. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So here's what you do. LinkedIn Jobs, you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. LockedOnNFL, all one word. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Another one I want to tell you guys about, and we mentioned this yesterday, is Prize Picks. And I told you before how excited I was yesterday to dig into this, and I did last night as well. I got a little action going. There's a lot of stuff here to look at. And what's really cool about this is you're not fighting against other people. You're really battling versus the projections they supply. So what you do is you pick 2 to 5 players and you look at them and you say, well, they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection. Like, man, there's no ways to get to that number. I'm going to go under, or the opposite. And you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. I, of course, focus on the NFL, but they also have Major League Baseball, hockey, golf, college basketball, women's college basketball, and they get deep into it. Disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, MMA. I mean, all sorts of stuff like that. Esports. So some of those smaller ones, I think you can really do well on, because you may even have a better insight on a specific sport than these guys making the line. So entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's unbelievably easy, safe, fast withdrawals. That's obviously important. It's currently operational right now in over 30 states and Canada. So again, here's what you do. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with our promo code, which is locked on, all one word, locked on. So if you deposit $100, PrizePicks gives you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks gives you $50. So as long as you use our promo code locked on and sign up for that instant deposit match up to $100.
All right, Matt, let's talk some more bold predictions for the 2022 season. We're focused on the running back position today. I've got another one for you here.
Okay.
I'm a little worried about this Green Bay passing offense, of course, as many are due to the wide receiver situation there. But I really like these running backs. I think Aaron Jones will finish as a top 5 running back this year. That's not too bold.
No.
But I also think AJ Dillon will finish as a top 15 running back this year.
Okay.
So both guys finishing among the top 15, with one of them inside the top 5. Matt, I went all the way back to 1992 looking at backfields, fantasy finishes, and I could only find one example where a pair of teammates finished as top 15 backs, with one of them finishing as a top 5 back. And,
wow.
And I couldn't believe this. It's fairly recent, but I did not remember. I just didn't recall how impressive the 2017 New Orleans Saints. Alvin Kamara, of course, was the running back 3. Mark Ingram was the running back 6. Both guys as top 6 running backs. I don't think we necessarily see that from Green Bay, but I do like both Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon to be among the top 15 scorers, with Jones way up there in the top 5. What do you think about that one?
How many passes do you think Aaron Jones catches this year? 80?
So his career high, do you know his career high?
No, I don't. I mean,
52, I believe, is his career high receptions. So I don't know if I can go all the way to 80, but I certainly expect a big jump for Aaron Jones when it comes to receptions, and honestly, AJ Dillon too. I think they're going to use both of those guys
a lot.
I mean, we've heard the comments from Aaron Rodgers, not only criticizing his young wide receivers, but praising the running backs, calling them 2 of the most talented players on the offense, which is no surprise, certainly. So yeah, I definitely think it's fair to expect a new career high in targets and receptions for Aaron Jones.
I do too. We had the host of Locked On Packers on our podcast a week or 2 ago. I mean, it's probably longer than that. And he very much believes, Peter believes that these 2 are going to be on the field together a lot. And I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but basically said, don't be surprised if Aaron Jones leads the team in receptions. They love Dillon. If you're going to put your best 5 skill guys on the field, that includes both of them. The only hiccup to me is, can they score enough touchdowns combined? You know what I mean? Like, who gets in the end zone? Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And in Aaron Jones' biggest season a couple of years ago, he was the running back 2, scored well over 300 fantasy points, and did a lot of that on the back of 16 rushing touchdowns. Right. So while I don't expect 16 rushing touchdowns from him again, I think we'll see more balance, obviously, between the 2 when it comes to touchdown production. As we already said, I do think we'll see the receiving usage go up, and obviously that's gold in those PPR leagues. What about you, Matt? One more bold prediction, running back position for 2022.
I was torn between 2 bold predictions, so I'm going to lump them together in the AFC East and just say this is your last chance to get a discount on Ramondre Stevenson and James Cook. And I understand Stevenson is skyrocketing right now, but I think there's a lot of receptions coming his way, which is the last piece. I think he's vastly more talented than Harris. And I look at Cook and think, all of a sudden, some of these fantasy experts are questioning him a little bit for this year. And is he going to be worth it in redraft? He's going to be worth it. And he's going to show over and over. You mentioned Kamara. I'm not saying he's Kamara, but I think he's a lot closer to Kamara than he is James White,
Love both calls.
Okay.
I'm totally with you on James Cook. I mean, we're hearing this, that he's the third option in the backfield.
Right.
I mean, I just keep going back to last year. This is a team that, with no depth at running back, made Zach Moss a healthy scratch multiple times, right? Multiple times Zach Moss was a game day inactive.
Right.
When they had really very few other options outside of Devin Singletary. So is Zach Moss suddenly a threat to the starting job? Is he suddenly going to catch passes? No, I don't think so.
No,
I think he's more likely to repeat what we saw last year and end up as a healthy scratch than he is to take away playing time from James Cook. Also, as we've talked about many times on here, the Bills have kind of told us what they're doing this offseason. They tried to get JD McKissick. That didn't work, so they they drafted James Cook instead, who's one of the best pass catching running backs in the class.
Yep.
They want to throw the ball more to their running backs, and if they're doing that, it's going to James Cook most of the time. James Cook is the RB 26 on DLF Dynasty ADP right now, actually ahead of Ramondre Stevenson, who's down at 30. Just to be fair, I do not think that Ramondre Stevenson ADP is accurate at this point.
No,
we've talked about his value climbing. He might even be 8 or 10 spots higher than that when we do this again coming up this next month in September. We'll have that ADP to share with you in the coming weeks. But yeah, Stevenson, you're right. He's only going to get more expensive. So don't be afraid to buy higher than he was a couple weeks ago.
Agreed.
If you still think he's going to continue to gain value, and I do, Matt does as well. I like both of those calls. You were Stevenson, Chase Edmonds, and James Cook. You were heavy in the AFC East. Give us a Breece Hall take before we end here.
I'm gonna wait for the last segment for my Breece Hall take.
Okay.
How about that for a tease? We're getting good at this.
That is a good one. Just like we did yesterday with the quarterbacks, we are going to try to project the top 5 running backs from Dynasty ADP this time next year. So fast forwarding a full year, 2023 in August. We'll look at what we think and who we think might be in that top 5.
Before we do, though, I want to tell you guys about Dave. They've been a good friend of the Locked On Network here for a while now. And hindsight's 2020, and you can't change the past. But what if you could get a little help from your future self? Maybe you'd ask to borrow a little cash, or you can now with Dave. If you're living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make ends meet, it can be really stressful when unexpected expenses, pop up. And now Dave can get you out of a pinch when you really need it. Dave is the banking app that can get you up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That's more money than to fill your tank or buy a wedding gift, catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. No interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from the future you. And here's how you do it. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That's Dave, D-A-V-E. Sign up for extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. Terms and conditions have to go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. The future you will thank you.
Thanks again for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. However you play, get the latest NFL fantasy draft tips from Locked On Fantasy Football and Locked On Dynasty. Plus, starting August 22nd, we're bringing you daily top 10 lists for draft week. Locked On Fantasy Football and Locked On Dynasty, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Matt, let's talk top 5 ADP, the top 5 running backs currently: Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift, and Javonte Williams. So we are fast forwarding one full year. This time next year, who is the RB1 in Dynasty?
I think Taylor has a really strong case. And I'm torn between him and who I'm going to put at number 1, Javonte Williams.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think if we're trying to agree here, I had Jonathan Taylor. It sounds like you
Let's
were
put him
close
at 1
to putting
then.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
He does feel a little bit like the chalky answer. Obviously,
Sure.
Is the current RB1, as we said, coming off an 1,800-yard rushing season. He's a top 3 pick in dynasty drafts this offseason. So we'll go with Jonathan Taylor. Now, I did have Javonte Williams on my list, and I had him pretty high on my list.
Okay.
I actually had him at 3 overall. So I think we can come to an agreement and put him as the RB2. Williams is, of course, an interesting one. We already saw him over the past 9 months or so with a major dynasty value gain. And a lot of that was attributed to the expectation that Melvin Gordon would be gone from that team. And of course, Gordon ends up coming back. Williams has maintained his value despite Gordon's return, because I think most people see through that. And even though Gordon's back, I mean, NFL teams, outside of the Steelers, NFL teams are going to have 2 quality backs, and they're going to have some type of rotation of those backs. So, I mean, we even see it with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Of course, Hines has a significant role there. So Gordon being there should not be a major knock on Williams' value, in my opinion.
Especially a year from now,
Right.
Yeah.
We'll do the same thing that we've done for the past year. We expect Melvin Gordon to be gone after this season, and whether they bring in, another talent, whether they kind of stick with what they have, we'll see, but expect another value boost for Javonte Williams. What is it that you like so much that you were willing to even put him as the RB1 this time next year?
I think he's a underrated receiver. I mean, I think he catches 40 to 50 balls, but more than anything, I think he's a pretty special talent and is just really difficult to tackle. I mean, tackle breakers to me, no matter what their situation, whether it's elusiveness or just running people over, and he's got both, are always going to be coveted. And I think he's about as good in the league as there is right now. And he has some big playability.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top a second-year running back who could be a top 5 running back this time next year. I was not thinking of Javonte Williams, actually, although he kind of fits that bill. We'll get to another one maybe in just a moment. So Jonathan Taylor, RB1, Javonte Williams, RB2. Who are you thinking for RB3?
Well, who's your RB2? Because you said you had somebody in between there. So why don't you throw out a name?
Yeah, I've got the rookie. I've got Bijan Robinson.
Oh, you're talking about next year's rookie, not even the rookie this year. Okay,
that's right. We're fast forwarding.
All right, I had him at 5, so I'm not going to fight you too much.
Well, I think a big piece of projecting ADP is knowing the market, right? Knowing the dynasty landscape. And I don't know how many tweets I've seen and comments I've heard that Bijan Robinson is already a top 5 dynasty back, a top 3 dynasty back, maybe even in the running to challenge Jonathan Taylor to be the RB1 in dynasty. So the hype is certainly there. Obviously, the player is talented. We've seen a great career from him so far at Texas, and everyone expects that to continue. He is, of course, expected to be part of that 2023 class. And honestly, I kind of feel like value-wise, this might be the floor, right? This might be the lowest we see. It would not surprise me if he's drafted ahead of Jonathan Taylor this time next year.
Wow. So I took the easy way out putting him 5, and my cop-out was going to be, well, I don't know what team he's on, and I'll be honest, you're more familiar with him than I am. I mean, you've watched more of the college guys than I have. He's a special prospect, but, I had mentioned Edmonds before. What if Miami drafts him? What if the Chiefs draft him? There's a couple spots where he would be 1.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll put him at 3 for
3,
now.
Yeah.
That's Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Bijan Robinson, our top 3 running backs so far for August 2023. Fast forwarding here. Who else is on your list that we should get in here?
Breece Hall was my 3.
Okay.
My obstacles for Hall are Carter, who I think is a really good player, but not the workhorse Hall is or the draft capital. Sure. And I don't love the quarterback situation, but I think he's going to get a lot of volume when it's all said and done and increase his stock.
Yeah, if we did this exercise a couple weeks ago, I would have had Hall in my top 5. I've been a big believer in him. I didn't put him in there now. I'm kind of buying in to those camp reports, and for the most part, they have not been good when it comes to Breece Hall. Of course, part of that is on the offensive scheme. Part of it's on the quarterback and the injury to Zach Wilson and just uncertainty about him. But part of it's on Hall himself, who, as of now, looks like he's not even the Jets starter. That's Michael Carter. So I do expect kind of the cream to rise to the top here, and Hall to eventually be the top guy, the lead back in New York. But it's not off. We're not off to the start I was hoping for.
No, I hear you.
Like I said, we're trying to come to an agreement here. We took it easy with the quarterbacks yesterday, a little tougher here. Here's the second.
This makes it easier. Swift is my last guy, and I was torn between Swift and Hall at 3 and 4 on my ranks.
Okay.
Is he one of yours?
I do have DeAndre Swift in my top 5. Let's put him here at 4, and then we'll have to decide at running back 5 if we want Breece Hall or we want my guy, Travis Etienne.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah. You look at the current running backs. We talked about the top 5 already: Taylor, Harris, McCaffrey, Swift, Javonte Williams. And then as you go deeper, you just see players that, as talented as they are, it's going to be hard for them to gain value. We're talking Dalvin Cook at 27 years old, Saquon Barkley even. He's down at RB9. Austin Eckler, over 27 years old. Mixon and Kamara and Chubb and Henry and Aaron Jones. Almost regardless of the type of production, the type of season these guys have in 2022, they're not gaining value, and they're certainly not going to regain their spot as a top 5 dynasty running back. And you look at that list for younger players that could be ascending. Breece Hall is certainly in that range. He's the RB7 right now. But there's Travis Etienne, RB11. He's already into the top 12, the RB1 range, despite not playing an official snap in the league yet. I guess we should go with Hall as the favorite, but I think Etienne is knocking on the door.
Yeah, he's going to catch a lot of passes, and I believe that organization is on the upswing, and I want to buy things attached to Trevor Lawrence.
So our projections for 2023 running backs, dynasty running backs, this is according to ADP, or at least our expectations of ADP: Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift, and Breece Hall. Thanks again for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Make sure you check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview starting August 31st, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. Local team experts of Locked On Podcast Network and the Odyssey NFL Insiders are combining into one Ultimate NFL Preview. Starting August 31st, search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. That is it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the Locked On Dynasty channel on YouTube. Remember to follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL. And I'm Ryan, MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.